The Navajo Nation is a reservation for one Native American tribe, which is Navajo. Today, most Navajos live on the reservation, mostly because it's, ancestral lands and because it's where our family grew up and just where we have history. I grew up mostly with my grandparents for the first couple years of my life. My mom was still in college when she had me, and she was in college for a little bit and she dropped out. And while she was going to work, she had me stay with my grandparents. Being with them definitely got me a lot more appreciative of things. Like in my culture, you really have to respect your elders, and we would always help out my grandparents with farming and ranching. So we used to have a lot of cows and sheep, goats. Growing up on the res is much different than being anywhere near a city. I mean, a lot of it is underdeveloped. Not to say that everyone doesn't have access to electricity or isn't on the grid, but I remember when I was growing up, we used to have this bag phone, and you used to have to drive a mile down the road and sit on top of the mesa just to get phone signal. You feel that sense of isolation, but at the same time, you're so used to it that being connected all the time isn't necessarily as important as it is to someone who grew up with that. My mom and my grandpa are both just incredible problem solvers, and I saw that a lot growing up in the projects that they did. I don't remember how old I was, but my uncle and I were helping my grandpa, and this person had a dent in their truck, and my grandpa told my uncle, "Go get your football," and he's like, "And get a pump with it too." And I was like, what is he gonna do with that? We're trying to fix a truck. and my uncle comes back with the football. My grandpa deflates the football a little bit. He sticks it in there and he says, "All right, start pumping it up." And then he pumps it up and then it pops a dent out. And for me, that was just mind blowing. I didn't even think about that. It was just, for me, always seeing him solve problems like that with just everyday things was always just super cool. You can't just drive down the road to go to a grocery store or a hardware store to find the part or whatever it is that you need. So when you on the res, you have to find a solution of the things that you already have. You have to make the most of what you already have. And that teaches you sustainability and how to recycle things. And my grandma always told me don't throw anything away until your grandpa takes a look at it to see if he can fix it. And so that was definitely a huge part of my experience growing up, was how do you make the most of the resources that you already have. This one?
Yeah.
And their hat?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of them. Got a whole bunch of hats in here, look.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Close up shop.
Close up the shop. Go ahead. Watch out.
Math was my favorite subject. It was a step-by-step process. If you followed the process, followed the pattern, you get the answer. And there's always a right answer to the problem. My mom, my grandpa, whatever projects they were working on, I always understood math because I understood how they used math when they were doing those projects. Whether it was my mom, figuring out dimensions for, a cabinet or something, whatever she was building, she used math to figure out how much material she needed. Or my grandpa, doing the same thing but with metal or piping, whatever it was. I just saw them using math and I was like, oh, okay. I guess it just made sense to me. So growing up, I definitely knew that I was going to go to college. I don't know where the seed was planted, but as far back as I could remember, I knew I was going to go to college, and there was always a sense of, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it no matter what. You're always told, go get your education. This is a message that every Native kid can relate to, is that your family tells you, go get your education and then come home and help the community. Whether that's, to sacrifice, some career opportunities or other opportunities for growth. It's hard for people who, his entire life is focused on either living on the res or only visiting border towns to really, understand that the opportunities that you need to develop professionally don't exist on the reservation, and then it takes time to develop competencies in order to do the things that they want done. Sometimes there's a rush to get back home that is put on a lot of people, people that go to college. It makes it difficult when you're away to say, I can't come home yet, I'm not ready. I was first introduced to AEOP in high school through a science fair competition. AEOP is the Army Educational Outreach Program. AEOP definitely introduced me to a lot of professionals that I got to interact with and broadened my horizons. I didn't know what electrical engineering was, but I definitely got some exposure to that, and it planted a seed in my head to do that. And then, people that I met through AEOP were like, yeah, you're a problem solver, you would be a really good engineer. And then, of course, my dad being an electrician added into them, okay, I'll be an electrical engineer. You get to see all these students working on projects, and I got to see that through AEOP. That's what AEOP exposed me to. And it took away that initial impression and brought me to be like, wow, this is something I would want to do. This is actually really interesting. So anytime I travel somewhere, my grandma would require me to bring back a magnet. Anywhere I would go, to Oklahoma, Sedona, Fort Worth, DC, she would always want me to bring back a magnet so she could catalog my travels. Right now I'm in my senior year at Arizona State University studying electrical engineering with a concentration in electrical power and energy systems. I am also an Army ROTC cadet. I plan to commission as an officer in the United States Army. I'm wanting to join the National Guard, and I recently accepted a full-time offer at Chevron in Houston, Texas. Right now my plan is definitely to build the technical competencies that, I want our leaders, our tribal leaders to have in order to do the things that everyone is asking for, jobs and infrastructure. And I think that a lot of times we've been, as Native Americans, we've been stuck in this cycle of this is just how things are. And I'm tired of that. I don't want to hear that anymore, because I don't think that that's how things are, or just because that's how things are doesn't mean that's how they're going to be. Growing up on the res, you're kind of built with this perspective of there are only a few options for me. I want to empower other people to build solutions that are going to help them improve their quality of life. I want people in my community to understand that there is a way out, and that doesn't necessarily mean leaving home, but it means creating solutions for the problems you've always been facing.
Thanks, Kelly. When I was a kid, my grandfather, too, seemed to be able to produce magical things out of pieces of material that folks would simply throw away. The mentors that we have in our life do not always come from education. They sometimes come from within our own family. For more information on the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, please visit www.usaeop.com.